Tabletops will start after the following messages.
Do you know where the legend of Bigfoot comes from? Or why people leave offerings of beans to the Mothman statue? No? Well, I'll certainly tell you on Myth Monsters. We're a mythical monsters and cryptid podcast that goes up every Thursday, and we talk about how these monsters came to be and how they exist within our modern culture and media to this day. So if you're interested in finding out about Kelpies, Wendigos, unicorns, or Bigfoot himself, tune in to Myth Monsters every Thursday on all streaming platforms, and please, stay spooky.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletopped. I'm your host, Nick, and today I have a really exciting guest for an interview about running Curse of Strahd and horror campaigns and also performance pieces as an actual play. Today I have the DM of Critical Fayle, DM, and the Goons, and more specifically, the Stahdcast. I have Trevor. What is up, Trevor? How are you?
I am terrific. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. First of all, I just wanted to say welcome, and that your podcast and all of the stuff that you guys make, which is a huge amount. You guys do the podcast, you do TikToks, you do Instagram Reels, you do streams, and all of the different campaigns you have are in sort of not specifically horror, but like a little bit in that genre, because you have your Call of Cthulhu campaign and stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came into DMing and what the group is and how you all got together?
Absolutely. I would love to. So I really got into DMing over the pandemic. I had played a few times before in college, but as so many, D&D ventures do, it just sort of fell by the wayside after a few sessions. So the pandemic, with suddenly all this time on my hands, I had always known it was something that I really wanted to try and thought that would be a good fit for me, sort of artistically. I really got a chance to explore it. And the first thing that I ever really, really ran was Curse of Strahd the first time. This time through that we're hearing on the podcast is the second time I've run it. And so, I just really got to cut my teeth, please excuse the pun, by playing Curse of Strahd. And then the Goons, we all came together in just absolutely by happenstance. I happened to be doing a few of our number currently are or used to be as well stage actors in Philadelphia. And it just so happened that myself and Ned and Kay's then fiance were doing this fun project. We were doing like Shakespeare scenelets in Longwood Gardens, which is this big arboretum, so folks could walk through the garden and they would stumble upon the balcony scene. Or Ned did, I think Ned did Macbeth, and it was just legendary. But so we all did that. And as a part of that weekend, we were all talking about D&D and about how I had just gotten into it in this big way. And Ned really wanted to try it out. He had played Pathfinder a number of times, but he had never quite got into 5e yet. And Kay's then fiance said, oh my gosh, I have to introduce you to my fiance. They love D&D. I'll introduce you. You'll play. I'll get some brownie points. It's going to be great. And so then, myself, Ned, and Kay did a little just at home campaign for a long time. And when it finally came back around, when the campaign started to settle down and we were ready to get back in and do a campaign at the table, I thought, why not? Let's do Strahd again. It was so much fun to run through it the first time. And I learned so much running it the first time. I was so excited to apply all these new ideas I had and these things that I had learned running it the first time through. So I was really excited to do it. And that is when we also attached Tyler, who was a friend of Kay's, who came and watched one of our sessions a long time ago and was so enamored with it and really wanted to try it. And I mean, I had gotten Campbell into Critical Role over the pandemic, and so she was really excited to try it. And so, yeah, we started that campaign with no notion of turning it into any kind of project, of no notion of making a podcast or doing any of the things that we're now doing. But Campbell, just on a whim, started putting videos up on TikTok of our sessions. And the response we got to those videos was overwhelming, people were really excited about watching it. They really loved our energy at the table, and they kept asking, is there, do you have a podcast? Do you have a stream? Where can we get more? And so there was a demand, and we decided to fill it. So we started, taking it more seriously. We got ourselves some camera equipment, and we've been improving on that ever since. And boy, it's just been a real ride. And it's been just one of the coolest things in my life, truly.
Yeah. As an actor myself, one of the best things you want to hear is like, where can I see more of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. So I want to hear a lot more about what you guys are doing and all the different ways people can kind of, interface with your content. But first, I think that something that we get asked a lot at Tabletop is, how can I best prepare myself to DM for the first time? A lot of people are really scared to make that jump. I, like you, had been dabbling in DMing before the pandemic. We did sort of a rotational DM on our table with the other hosts and I. But then during the pandemic, I was like, it's time. I'm going to just go for it. I have this idea. I just rewatched Gravity Falls, and I had listened to the Adventure Zone, the second season, where it's all cryptids and stuff. And I was like, motherfucker, I have a story in there that I'm going to figure out how to tell.
It just got your wheels spinning. Yeah.
And I was just like, man, this is the best. And I had such a great time. It was so so rewarding. And when I hear people saying like, I'm so nervous, I don't want to jump in, I don't know all the rules and stuff like that, I'm sort of like, just do it. But for you who just recently went through that, and you're saying like, hey, I've learned all these lessons, you started in with a module. What were the big things that you learned through that first arc of doing Strahd with everybody before it became what it is now?
That's a great question. One of the biggest hurdles that I had to overcome when I was starting my DM journey was answering the question of just how much should I have ready to go for the first session? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do I need the entire campaign planned out from the jump? You know what I mean? Like, just how much should I have ready to go before I dive in? And I think what I've landed on is I never try to I give myself fence posts, that I know will light the way as I go. Each in the Stahdcast, sort of each area that we go to, whether it be Kresk or the Abbey or, Yesterhill or the Castle Ravenloft itself. Every time they are going to some of those places, I have sort of a big idea of the big event that's going to happen, in that area. Everything in between, I kind of just let them figure out how we get there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so what I have found the most useful is to have a really firm idea of what I think they will run up against first. Spend a ton of time on that, put energy into where you think they will be, and come to understand the characters that they will be first interacting with and that will be giving them those initial quest hooks. You know what I mean? To best facilitate that sort of action out. And then see what they are interested in. See what they get most excited about. And then prep that. Which can be challenging and difficult because sometimes they'll just pull a hair turn and then you have to really be freewheeling. But that, I think, is a fine risk to run, because what it allows you to do is be really generous and attendant to the things that are right in front of you and your players. And that's what's always most important.
Yeah. When I talk to the other DMs in our group, we sort of have differing opinions on different things. Like Franco is very much like, do not over prep at all. Like, this is like you shouldn't have any idea of where they should end up, because you aren't you shouldn't be like railroading somebody to specific points or whatever. I, on the other hand, when I start a campaign, I'm like, I have a beginning and I have an end, and everything in the middle is going to be everywhere. But we're going to figure out how to get from A to B, because I find that having 2 points of a path, and then it doesn't really matter where they go in the middle. Like we can go anywhere that interests them. And of course that's going to affect the ending, but there is an ending that's going to be coming. I find that very helpful. And then Daniel and Shade are both like extreme over preppers. Like Shade has a document that is endless, in my opinion, when it comes to some of the campaigns he runs. So it's really like whatever works for you. But I super resonate with the idea of find the places of interest that you think that there is a possibility people going to, and then throwing a bunch of attention in how that feels, so that when they get there, it feels lived in, it feels exciting, it feels interesting, because most likely they're going to want to stay there. That's awesome. And when you started doing it the second time, what were the big changes you made about running out of a module that made it, in your opinion, better, more exciting, and more dynamic, I guess?
I love modules. I always I recommend modules, especially to first-time DMs, but even for more experienced ones, just because they do so much of the heavy lifting for you. They give you all of the information up front. And so then once you have all the details of this person's name, what their job is, who their family is, what they, what it is they do, that then you have a perfect diving board then to leap off and jump into the sort of proverbial pool of who that character really is. And when it comes to prep work, what I like to put a ton of focus into is really understanding the NPCs that these characters are going to be interacting with in a deep, deep way, because that really frees you up then for whatever your players bring to you, because you know how that character will respond to the stimuli they're being given.
Yeah.
And so that is what I put a lot of effort into. And, in the Stahdcast, it's the Mardikovs in Vallaki that, they come back to time and time again. And, a bunch of the changes that I made this time around were fleshing out areas that I was not able to give as much attention to the first time around, just because I was focused on other things.
Yeah.
A prime example of that is, and this I'll keep everything pretty spoiler free, just for any of you out here who are new to us and are looking forward to listening to the podcast yourself. But I fleshed out the sort of druids of Yesterhill, which was the first real bad guys that they came up against in our campaign. And I added this NPC Pasha, who became a sort of instant fan favorite and very beloved by the party. He wasn't there the first time around, but I added him in because I wanted to give more life to the sort of skeleton that the module gives you.
Yeah.
And that is the real gift of modules, is it gives you such a strong foundation that you can then just build on top of. It's like there's already a mound of sand, and then you get to put the spires on your sandcastle just where you want them to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. One question I have about that, because I recently ran my first module ever, because I've homebrewed everything before that, was Prisoner 13 in the Keys to the Golden Vault. It's a kind of heisty sort of thing. It's free on D&D Beyond for people who are interested in that. I sort of hacked it and put it into a work campaign for some folks who are sort of new to D&D. And one thing that I found, to your point about that feeling of it being lived in, is that they are really good skeletons modules. They're really good there, but there's like a lot missing from just like what people are going to do. Like one of the things in Prisoner 13 is that there's a checkpoint, and basically the main information that the module gives you is this checkpoint will like strip all of their weapons off of them unless they pass a sneak sort of check of 12. And it's like, okay, well, a sleight of hand is easy enough. That's great to know. But who are the guards there? What are they all about? How are they going to interact with the characters? And my characters entered into this prison in various different ways. That I had to invent janitors on the spot that like found one of them that was hiding in a crate, who became a beloved person that we're still kind of resolving that arc, because he was a janitor named Ryan that this bard had convinced, like, this prison is oppressive, you need to rise up. And he was like, yeah, don't call me Ryan anymore, call me Bloodfist, and I'm on your side, and like, we're gonna get out of here. And so Bloodfist is now sort of this whole thing that we've been dealing with.
And that's great. And then those are the things that make a campaign,
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And so my question is, for somebody who is new to DMing and is using the module as a skeleton, how do you approach adding that flesh and that life into these places that they can start adding in characters without feeling the stress of like, how do I do this? What are they supposed to do? What's the best practices? As actors, I think that there's a healthy amount of just story structure that kind of comes in our profession. So like that is good for us to have in the back of the mind. But for someone who isn't super, versed in that sort of thing, how would you go about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think just it's a lot about finding what is most exciting for you and the story that you want to tell. Like, what pops out most to you when you read through Curse of Strahd. And I always do recommend read the entire module before you run it, even though you're not going to get to most of it for maybe a year, if ever. But do read through the whole book, read through all the material, and find what is most exciting to you, and then kind of just follow that instinct, follow that desire path, and what that will do is start where is most interesting, and that will lead you on paths to the rest of the story and open up the rest of it entirely, and something that I love to do with modules is a lot of times what'll be presented in modules are all these sort of great islands. Curse of Strahd is a lot like a sort of universal theme park. There's the castle and the abbey and the village of Krezg and the mountain. And so, it's like there's the King Kong Island and the Jurassic Park Island. And, it's a lot like that. And so what that then gives you the opportunity to do as the storyteller is come up with your own ways of knitting those islands together in the way that makes the whole thing connect for your group of adventurers. And in that way, you can really make your own adventure unique.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that just like how everyone's Strahd is going to be a little bit different, all of these places can be a little bit different as well. And they all are characters within. It's like how everyone says Sex and the City, the fifth character is the city. It's like, the sixth character or the fifth character in your campaign can be whatever town that you think is the most excellent, that keeps drawing them back into it and is exciting to them. One thing, since it is the day before Halloween, people are getting ready to do those Halloween one-shots, the Halloween streams, all that kind of stuff. Curse of Strahd, it is the kind of poster child for the horror genre within D&D. Everyone kind of looks at it and says, this is Dracula. This is, yeah, exactly. So when you're approaching it, and we're going to probably talk a lot about this, but especially from going from a module, which can be a little bit genreless in some ways, because it is just information. It doesn't tell you how to do it very in a specific way in all cases. How do you bring that genre feel to your campaign to really involve your players in that feeling of horror, suspense, whatever it is?
I filled my Barovia with all of my favorite pieces of vampire media, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The Hugh Jackman Van Helsing was a huge, I was so big for me as a kid. Like, that was a big part of my inspiration for coming up with this campaign. My Dracula it takes cues and is heavily inspired by the performance of in that movie. And so again, it kind of comes back to just what makes you most excited. I think an important lesson that I like to put out to people who are looking to get into DMing and are maybe intimidated about like it is intimidating, like I just want to show my friends a good time. And already feeling that you're in the right spot, kind of going forward to the gift that is DMing. But you need to have a good time too, right? And you need to fill it with the things that are exciting to you. And so the thing that I say is be the hype that you want to see at your table. You know what I mean? Players take their cues from the DM. They will meet you. If you bring an energy, they will meet you there. You know what I mean? And so a good way to do that is just to stock your campaign with things that are exciting to you, things you have always dreamt. It has been my dream forever to play a dread vampire lord. You know what I mean? And so my excitement at being able to live and experience and fulfill that dream and really give that 100%, I think, is infectious and spills over to my players, And by the same token, I can communicate fear by the way that I, manipulate my voice and body and set the scene, And if these things are things that I have dreamed up that they think are things that would scare me, make it true to yourself. If something is scary to you, really scary to you, and of course, I mean in a way that is safe, but that will spill out. That will be infectious to your players. Stoking something inside your own heart when you are DMing is an excellent way to also give that experience to your players. And so I just fill my Curse of Strahd with the spooky, scary things that I love so dearly,
Yeah, totally. So if we can kind of dig deeper into that, when you say you populate it with that, is that just taking the map that is given to you and adjusting it to accommodate these sort of things that you're excited about? Or is it by, like you said earlier, all of the things in the middle of these places that they are going to be going to within the map that is the module, that is where you are able to put all of that stuff so that you can add all of the scares and everything in there? What do you think is, or where do you tend to go to add that stuff in?
Your players will give you a lot of that information and point you in the right direction. We've talked about it before already, but like following their instincts is a great way to arrive at the places you need to be. And then and tying these places together, they'll oftentimes point you in the direction, whether you choose to do it sort of in a narrative way or just by linking. Maybe you have a sigil found in one place that they recognize from another place they have been to. You can do it through ambiance and setting. You can have some characters speak about these other places and maybe have their, NPCs have their own connections to them that then give, their players something to hook onto when they ultimately end up there. But like, they'll tell you what is most interesting. And so like, bait the waters, keep throwing stuff out there and see what is most exciting for them. And then that's what to put your attentions toward and what to follow.
And right after this, we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about running the horror genre. We're going to talk about other systems and about projects that they are working on. Be back right after these messages.
You're in my realm now. I'm your god here. Kirk. When I die, I will die fighting with my grudges avenged. Sasha and I are with you. I'm right behind you. Mirnock!
Tally-ho!
Critical Fayle DM and the Goons present the Stahdcast, a Curse of Strahd actual play podcast. New episodes every other Sunday.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here today with Trevor Fayle, the DM and I guess host maybe of
I wear many hats
of the Critical Fayle podcast, the Stahdcast. They are in, I think, your 61st episode. Where are you guys?
64th was just
64th. Excellent. Yeah. So this is a really great time as we're approaching Halloween. Before the break, we talked a little bit about how to run out of modules and for people stepping into the DM seat for the first time. Now I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of your other projects as well. On Tabletop, we're constantly trying to encourage people to expand their horizons, to go beyond D&D and to see see other stuff. And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about Call of Cthulhu, which you guys stream as well.
Yeah.
Do you, I haven't been able to see one of the streams yet, but are you the person who is running these campaigns as well? Or is it kind of a rotational cast? How do you guys approach that?
So for Twitch streams, it was Kay who ran the Madness and Mercy, which was our Call of Cthulhu stream. And we also did a Delta Green campaign, which Ned ran. The Twitch streams we've done more sort of rotationally based on what people are excited about doing. And it is funny. I mean, we have sort of found ourselves in this place of like a lot of what we offer is spooky stuff. And that happened completely by accident. It is just what we have been most excited about bringing so far. So I don't know what that says about us, but it is a realm in which we delight.
Yeah, I feel like there is something to be said about really finding a genre that is exciting and fun and then playing to it. Like a lot of my stuff is like mysteries and thrillers as well, just because I find them so exciting to build and for me a little bit easier to build as well. But so let's talk a little bit about these other systems. So as a player then, how was Call of Cthulhu in your experience? What is it really great for? How did that campaign go? And if people are interested in kind of expanding their repertoire, what kind of campaign does Call of Cthulhu really lend itself to?
Call of Cthulhu, and in many ways Delta Green as well, is very different from Dungeons & Dragons 5e because, 5e is all about building a hero, empowering yourself, your character getting progressively stronger until you turn into like a Super Saiyan God mode once you get up to like level 17. You know what I mean? Yeah. But Call of Cthulhu is great, and it's particularly great for if you're trying to go for a horror-themed campaign because you are so vulnerable. It is, you have a much more limited pool of resources, be it health or ways in which you can defend yourself, or even just a general understanding of the things that are allaying you.
Which is not always a good thing to have that understanding in that game too. It's like, oh, I understand too much.
I know. Sometimes understanding hurts. But that was really fun. It was just such a, even though, we were still in this sort of spooky, scary place, it was such a different experience because we were just guys. Which I personally love. It's great narratively because it really ups the stakes when, getting into any kind of combat, getting any sort of check to like keep yourself away from the will of this monstrous entity from 1,000 understandings away. Doing one thing wrong can just end the campaign for you. It's very hard to die in 5e. It's really easy to die in Call of Cthulhu. And so it makes for a really intense narrative. Our Call of Cthulhu game, I think was, I can't remember exactly how many sessions it was, but I think it was somewhere between 8 and 10, I think.
Yeah.
And I do really recommend systems like Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green and these sort of like more down-to-earth kind of systems for shorter runs. The impact is it's a real adrenaline rush getting through. So it's great for sessions that are only planning to go, maybe 10 sessions or even 3 or 4.
Sure. Yeah, I feel that intensely as well. All of my favorite systems are ones that require you to deal with your fragility as a person. There's a lot of really great ones out there. Locust by Fern Milton and Cobblepath Games is a really great one where you actually build your characters with your faults rather than your strengths. So you are kind of approaching it from the other angle. But there's also like a lot of great ones. My favorite, of course, everyone sighs deeply right now as I once again mention Monster of the Week. What an incredible time that is too, because it does force you to, everyone only has 7 health the entire time you exist, even if you're up in the upper levels.
It accomplishes a very specific task. I like it a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I want to ask about being a player in these sort of situations, if you are either a first-time player or somebody who wants to kind of maybe you're interested in actual plays, or you really just want to really delve into the story and give your DM the most that you can. How would you go about trying to involve yourself as a character within these campaigns, especially in the horror genre? It can be tough because it's, the difference between being scared as a character and scared as a player is vastly different.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I would say come in with a take, come in with an idea. Give yourself, don't be afraid to like share something that you want to happen or for your character to accomplish throughout the run of a campaign. And it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can be something to the effect of like, I would love to have, my character would love to find romance this campaign, or my character would love to, find some alien object. I'm interested in getting into the thick of that somehow, or it can be more specific. There's no wrong ways to play this game. But I will say, be clear and upfront about what will make it a positive experience for you. That's a real gift for DMs and GMs, to be able to incorporate that in a way that is fluid and satisfying for a player is a real gift to be able to turn around and do as a DM. So yeah, and it also helps your DM out a lot to sort of like give a little bit of fuel into the fire in that way. I mean, I've ran campaigns before that ended up, just being based entirely on a player's backstory, so like come in with something that you're ready to explore with. Or if you're not ready to do that, then just be very open to what comes, I would say don't be scared to make a bold choice or a big decision or really dive into an opportunity that your DM is presenting you. Big choices should be loved and celebrated in this game that we all play, because that's where the good stuff comes from.
Yeah. And in your opinion, as someone who is both played in Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, I am not super familiar with, but I'm super interested to see how this affects your answer as well. And then actually running a campaign in D&D 5e, lethality can be very weird in all of these different games, in that, like, in my opinion, where you really get into the genre of horror or creating tension or fear at the table is to take away the agency from characters, where they feel like, I have all the tools to meet this situation. You get scared when you're like, I don't have the tools for this situation. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you have either participated in that dynamic, or have, as a GM, run that sort of thing with lethality and trying to create that atmosphere at the table without taking agency away from players in a bad way, where they feel like I'm not in control of my character, or I have no say at the table. Horror genre can be tricky to run. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, as well as both a player in Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green, and also as a GM.
That's great. Yeah. And it is something that you need to be delicate about, because it can easily feel bad. A lot of times if a mechanic offers something up as a way to sort of arrest your player or complicate them in some way, but if it just like takes away their turn, that generally feels pretty bad. There are ways that you can, make it interesting, but ways that I have found more effective to really put stress on a player is to give them things that they really care about in the campaign and put those in jeopardy. That'll light a fire under your player's ass. You know what I mean? That'll kick them into high gear. Whether it's an NPC or an item that is very valuable, or whatever it is, But like, it doesn't always have to be immediate threat to their person. There are lots of ways to, and sometimes it can be even more effective just to stoke emotion or fear or whatever it is you're trying to cultivate in your player by having something happen to something that is very important to them in the campaign.
Yeah. And I really like what you said there about just like the difference between taking somebody's turn away and giving them a feeling of
urgency.
Urgency.
Pressure. It's like, you gotta act, you gotta do something,
a lot of times when especially newer folks, when they're at a table, they can feel sometimes like, I don't know what to do in this situation. Obviously, there's maybe an answer, but like I have no idea what it is. And I feel like, especially in the horror or mystery genre, that can be a problem, because the whole thing about horror and mystery is that there's a lot of knowledge that the characters, or the characters mostly, will not have all the time, and they will not know what to do sometimes. So how do you approach that as well, so that you avoid that feeling of like, I guess I just pass my turn, which is never a good feeling, and instead you can bring out something else in them?
Make a meal out of it. Make it a character moment. Come up with a reason why. Give a justification for why the turn is being passed. If they're caught in a spell that charms them or something, and they can't act, like have them describe what it is they're seeing. If they're trapped under something, have describe the pressure pushing down on them, or water creeping up and about to bury them wherever they're trapped. It doesn't matter. It's just like give an event to it, so that something still happens, even if they're not actively using a part of their kit or whatever. It still offers them a chance to explore their character and use the tools that they have in a narrative sense.
Absolutely. I think that for me, the biggest mistakes that GMs make is when they are too focused on perhaps the mechanics or the running of the game itself, that they miss the slowing down of those moments and say, like, Tasha, your leg is gripped in this bear trap and you see these goblins running at you. Tell me what you're thinking about. Like that kind of stuff, where you really can let them have that moment still, even if it's like, you're stunned, you can't do anything, you have advantage against you, next player.
Particularly in combat, tension is so challenging to maintain because of just how laborious the game is. You know what I mean? And 5e is about as streamlined as it's ever been. And I love 5e dearly, but it is still a lot to keep track of, And so, I think a lot of the times when if we ever feel like start to feel a lull, we want to speed up and press forward and shoot head ahead and get to the next big thing. But I think, to your point, a lot of times really slowing down and exploring the minutia of a moment or a scene or a character can really net you a lot of gold.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is where a lot of the moments that people remember are, because D&D is essentially two separate games. There is the combat, which is a mini game, but also its own sort of game. And then there's the out of combat, which is its own sort of collaborative storytelling moment. Mm-hmm. And I actually feel like a lot of people have two sets of skills that they tend to kind of use one to the detriment of the other in one of those. Like out of combat, it's all about, all right, what's happening with you? How are you feeling? What's going on inside that head of yours? And then in combat, it's like, what spell are you using? Okay, a counter spell. What are you doing now? And I think that you can kind of mix those a little bit. So it's like you can have out of combat, you can have the threat of damage be present, like it's you're a moment away from a tavern brawl breaking out. You can see in this person's eyes, he's smashed a bottle and everything is like on a knife's edge. What do you do? Like, how are you feeling there? And then on the opposite side, you can have, the bear trap thing. Like, you've taken this damage, blood is dripping down your leg, but what are you thinking about in this moment, kind of thing, and try to mix those together.
Bring one to the other. You can utilize both in all scenarios to great effect.
Yeah. All right. I want to switch to just talking about genre. I want to talk about, since it is time for the spooky campaigns to come out, the one shots, the people getting together at their table, all dressed up as ghosts or whatever. As a GM who's been living in this world for quite a lot of time, I want to pick your brain. What would you suggest people, if they are coming into a one shot, or if they're in a moment where they're like, I want to do something special for my table for the season, or to try to get them involved in some way? What would you suggest? You're sort of an expert at this point, having run so much of this stuff.
Oh, that's great. So you mean like specifically for a holiday special occasion kind of?
Exactly. Like if someone's like, we're in the middle of the ocean on a ship in our campaign right now, but we're going to have a little an episode where we have a horror thing happen on the ship, or whatever. We're just going to experience this Halloween moment together, because ultimately all these games are social. So it's a good excuse to get together and celebrate the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best. I mean, it's one of the best things and hardest parts about this hobby we have, is just getting people in a room together. That could be the real horror sometimes. But yeah, I think atmosphere is so important. Whether it's you're going for something specifically holiday themed, or just trying to set a particular mood within your game. The importance of musical cues cannot be understated.
Yes.
Sound. I swear by sound design as a GM, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Just find something that is sort of what I'll do a lot is I'll just put into the YouTube search bar the actual event that is happening, and 9 times out of 10 you can come up with it, whatever it search scarecrow barn dance or something like that, and something will come up for you. But yeah, just setting that mood can be really important. I think there's also something that a little ritual that we always do at our table is we kind of take a moment before we actually dive in and start playing to sort of close our eyes and settle and arrive in a place where we are really ready to dive in to what we're about to experience. Just take a moment to put to the side, the things that happened that day, whatever it is that won't be helpful. Just put to the side everything that won't serve you in the journey you're about to embark on. And so I always just like to advocate that little moment of togetherness and understanding, just so everyone can kind of meld minds and launch into whatever it is you're about to embark on the same page and in the same heart.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love what you said about sound design. We had somebody come on, Max Colton, who is a composer for D&D music. He has a bunch of music out there that people can go to on Spotify and check out. He has a bunch of different playlists that you can use, or you can join his Patreon and download everything for free and build your own playlist from there. But one little hack that I learned actually in a theater production I was in, that was sort of, spooky, is that there is something to be said about it just being unsettling. If you have white noise with somebody slowly breathing under it or something like that, there is, and you just have that going on through the whole episode that you're sitting down at the table with, your body is going to physically react in a way that is going to do a lot of work for you and prepare your players in a way that you're not super conscious of. So it doesn't have to be you have to do all these cues, you have to do all this different stuff. There is also a way of doing it in sound design. Absolutely. Of just having 1 3-hour track that's just unsettling.
That's exactly right. Just find a 10-hour loop of something and leave it on. And then, if the scene changes, maybe then find a 5-hour something else. But yeah, just put something up and let it run. It will add it. Real horror movies cheat with music, so why shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been so good talking to you, Trevor. Trevor Fayle is the DM of Critical Fayle and the Goons and the Stahdcast specifically. I want to spend a little bit of time right now about all of the projects you guys are doing now. You still are doing the Stahdcast, like I said. You're in the 64th episode now. You have these Twitch streams that are happening. You have an Instagram. You have a YouTube. You have a TikTok. Tell us a little bit about where people can engage with you guys if they're new and they want to really start from the beginning. How would you suggest doing that? How can people get to know all of your work?
Oh, well, the great news, Nick, is it's so easy. If you're interested in the Stahdcast, that's sort of, our big ongoing main offering that you can find for free anywhere you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pick your favorite. You'll find us there. Just search Critical Fayle DM and the Goons, the Stahdcast. That's Fayle DM. It's my last name. It's not a very clever pun, but here we are. We also upload, sort of raw footage of video footage of our sessions up onto YouTube. So you can check those out if a video component is something that you're after. You can find us on TikTok at Critical Fail DM. That's where we started, and we consistently post little fun updates there. And if you check us out, if you check all the stuff we offer for free out, and it is engaging and exciting and interesting to you, and you feel like you want to support us, we do have a Patreon. You can find us just at Critical Fail DM there. We have a bunch of tiers. $5 will get you access to our private Discord server, which is a lot of fun. We're always hanging out in there. And, we have people, long-lasting friendships have been made in there, and so it's a great place that we and a bunch of our fans like to hang out. And we have a ton of just behind-the-scenes stuff on our Patreon. We have our Goon Talk, which is our patron-only podcast where we break down the episodes. There is sort of like, I've written short stories there. There's one about Dimitri, one of the NPCs in the Stahdcast, a bit of his origin story. So there's tons of ways to engage with us and what we do. And we really hope that you'll find us, because we love sharing what we do with everyone. I mean, it has been such a gift that what was going to be a home campaign has turned into this project, because genuinely, like, it gives me motivation to continue. It's such a blessing. This kind of consistency in a campaign is just so hard to find, and it's only because people are counting on us to finish the story that we do it. So thank you. Please continue to give us a reason to make the things that we love. And I hope you check us out.
Awesome. And for people who are interested in your other projects like Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Of course,
yes.
Yeah.
We are on Twitch at Critical Fail DM. We have 3 mini campaigns that you can still watch the VODs of on there. Madness and Mercy, which is our Call of Cthulhu campaign that our very own K. Divine Jones DM'd. There is Death House, which I DM'd, is sort of a sort of prequel to the Stahdcast. And then there is Delta Goons, our Delta Green campaign that Ned DM'd. And we will, for the holidays coming up, we're going to be doing a Humblewood stream, which we're all very excited about.
Humblewood,
so check us out on Twitch. Yeah, we always have a ton of fun when we have live streams going.
Amazing. All right, everyone, please check them out. And if you are interested in more tabletop, hit a subscribe button, and we will see you after the holidays. Bye, everyone.
Bye, thanks.